Ladies and gents, welcome to Reaction. This is Can the US turn off Europe's F-35 aircraft by Caspian Report? I think I watched Sandbox video on this and it's a really interesting the whole topic. Is there a kill switch there? And obviously the Sandbox video cleared it out, like it doesn't matter if they have a kill switch or not. If you have F-35, US can just stop giving you supplies or like access to things that you need to maintain an F-35, which basically shut the F-35 off. So they don't need a kill switch. Not supplying you is kill switch. So I don't know. But yeah, this whole kill switch thing has become like, exploded a lot recently. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Let's watch it. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe so I know which videos to react to more. Obviously, these topics like this are really interesting because it basically tells you how things are moving forward when it comes to global relations, which country is going to move towards what type of equipment. So yeah, let's watch it.
What if the world's most advanced fighter jet could be turned off like a TV from the other side of the globe? Like in a spy thriller. One moment, Europe's warplanes are soaring through the skies, and then
yeah, this feels like one of those like post-apocalyptic game type of intro. Everything was going fine before US pressed the button and world turned into darkness. Okay.
Next, they're electronically neutralized by a secret code from Washington. This unsettling idea of an American kill switch in the F-35 has been making rounds in defense ministries and prompting some very real questions about control and sovereignty. The rumor itself is, of course, unproven and unlikely, yet it persists because the anxiety behind it is painfully real. No country wants to find out in the middle of a crisis that its fighter jets are effectively on loan rather than fully its own. And while America may not have a real-time switch to turn off the jets, it doesn't need one. It controls.
Yeah, this was always a problem in reality. If Europe goes to war, they don't want to rely on US equipment. Not that US would not help them. It's like you need locally sourced things. You just need that because you don't know how the war is going to go. Right? So you don't want to rely on other countries like, okay, where's my equipment coming? Like, hey, any day now, you don't want that shit. Right? This is why a lot of countries, even in India, it's like make in India was a thing for like, it still is a thing for past 10 years or so. Not just economically, but military wise as well. So you need locally sourced things, especially like Europe has a history of being really unstable. I guess they just thought like, okay, after World War II, that shit is not going to happen. But nowadays, that vision is changing. So they're gonna panic now, like, okay, we need to do something. That's why Germany and everybody just like raising spending.
Something just as good, the logistics. Much of modern warfare is about control, but control extends as much to supply chains and software code as it does to munitions and aircraft. For clarity, it's not that anyone expects the US to suddenly turn hostile, but the dependence itself is seen as a risk. Rumors, after all, need no proof, only timing and an anxious audience. It doesn't help that Trump continues to send mixed signals on NATO's Mutual Defense Pact. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is now doing damage control and trying to reassure allies, but without much success. Some European media outlets are now dubbing it NATO's deepest crisis.
Look, Trump's whole element is basically like, okay, Europe needs to take up the slack, right? NATO is becoming like too much type of thing. Like, I don't know about NATO. Like the feeling is like touch and go. And on top of that, recently, like we need to reverse sanctions on Russia and shit like that. So this paints a picture that panics Europe. If they lift the sanctions on Russia, this clearly sends the signal that US is going to help Russia economically in the long term. If Russia gets stronger, what does it stop it from like attacking Poland or any other European country? So Europe is going to be like, what the fuck type of thing. On top of that, like NATO, I don't know about NATO, like Trump's that. So yeah, of course they're going to panic, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of damage control you do. This clearly sends a signal like where Trump is going to do things.
Others, however, see this as a timely reminder never to let a good crisis go to waste. France has taken steps to increase the Rafale's manufacturing output, while Macron has called on European nations to replace American-made military weapons like the F-35 with French-made alternatives. These
How do you replace F-35 with France's Rafale? Rafale is a great plane, probably one of the best planes on the planet. But it's not a fifth gen plane, right? It's not a stealth plane. Can you replace F-35 with a Rafale? How does that work?
These are precisely the type of nuanced developments that become the match lighting the fuse, and it's going virtually unnoticed. Of the 74 media outlets reporting on this story, the majority are from France, while only one is from the United States. To stay on top of things, I use Ground News. Its tools allow me to compare local and regional sources and form.
Yeah, well, go to ground.news / Caspian or go to original video page link and from there support this channel.
Europe's assumption of American permanence is being re-evaluated, and at the center of it all sits the F-35. However, the reasons for this crisis have little to do with the aircraft's performance and everything to do with its political framing. Trump has challenged long-standing diplomatic norms, made military aid conditional, and questioned NATO's Article 5. And while he has valid arguments of his own, the friction has now set in motion an irreversible political shift. Declining trust in Washington has Europe questioning the wisdom of tying its security so tightly to US technology. And that lack of trust is now shaping procurement behavior. The Europeans are openly rethinking the unthinkable, ditching the F-35. In March 2025,
Article 5 is already like touch and go, like how it is phrased. Like countries don't necessarily have to come to defense aid like that, like physically. This is the problem. Even with the, after World War I, Germany was getting aggressive, Hitler was getting aggressive. Attacking place here and there, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Oh, he's going to calm down. No. Before you know it, it exploded. Poland, World War II starts. Even with Article 5, NATO is like it's touch and go. So nobody's, if the actual war happens, right? People are not just going to jump to somebody's aid like that. It's just like try to politically pressure it, economically pressure it. I'm sure like they're going to back down. I'm sure like peace talks are going to happen before it becomes too unattainable and it becomes a global war. It's like garbage around your house. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be fine before everything smells and now you have to clean everything up. This is the history and it always repeats.
Portugal fired an opening salvo. Its defense minister dropped plans to acquire the F-35, saying that Washington could not be relied upon as an ally. Just days later, Canada, once a firm US ally and F-35 development partner, made waves of its own. Canadian officials announced that they were reconsidering their options and negotiating with rival jet manufacturers from Europe. For context,
yeah, but what? The alternative to F-35 is a Chinese plane, which is not really alternative. Su-57 already doesn't work. Which stealth plane are you going to use besides American? America has a monopoly on stealth plane, basically. They're literally dominant at it. Like, what alternative? Unless some country makes an equivalent plane, which I don't know how they're going to do. Yeah, what? China is the closest thing, and it's not even close to F-35 or F-22 when it comes to stealth. I guess world could go like screw stealth, I guess. 4th generation is fine, but let's find the best nimble plane like Rafale or something. That could be the alternative. I don't know.
Canada has a contract for 88 F-35s worth about $14 billion. The fact that they're having second thoughts shows that even signed deals aren't sacred when political winds change.
Obviously.
Meanwhile, Denmark is regretting its own F-35 order. One of the Danish decision makers for the procurement stated on Twitter that American aircraft were a security risk and that Europe should avoid them if at all possible.
Okay, this is big thing, man. Right? I don't know, like people watching this are like, you're just, this is nothing. Like you're just making too big. No, this is a big thing. America has never been a country which people looked as like a security threat or an enemy when it comes to Western countries. They've always been one since World War II for like near century now, 80 years, right? So now like European countries saying like America is a security risk, American equipment cannot be relied upon because we can't really trust America. This shit is a big shift. This is not a normal thing. Even few decades from now on, people will look back to this like this was a change of the whole direction how things worked. This is a shift, right? This is not a small thing.
But the dominoes kept falling. In Germany, political and Airbus lobbyists are urging the federal government to reconsider its planned F-35 purchase. Germany had agreed to buy 35 F-35s to replace its aging Tornado jets, a deal worth billions. At the same time in France, lawmakers have seized the moment to pitch their own fighter jet, the Rafale, as an alternative. Dassault, after all, has no kill switch of any kind. All across Europe, similar whispers are abound. Policymakers are asking the same question. Do we really want to be in a position where a phone call from Washington could ground our Air Force? Now, no one truly believes the US will suddenly turn against its allies, but the fact that transatlantic unity is now being questioned is a risk in itself. The F-35 program is not just about aircraft, it is about software pipelines, encrypted logistics systems, and spare parts supplied through a network controlled primarily by US entities. In effect, purchasing an F-35
Yeah, I know there are people who will say in the comments like a lot of like Rafale and a lot of alternatives. They use engines from America and things like that, so America could still kill it. But I think you're mistaken, like some things like Rolls-Royce and like BMWs, like they are known for making engines, right? Just because they use American engines doesn't mean they're just going to use American engines. They can find alternative. There are others in Europe who can make jet engines, right? So yeah, who knows what is the plan for the future, right?
F-35 means entering into a long-term strategic dependency. That same principle applies to all other American-made weapons. About two-thirds of European defense procurements in recent years have gone to US suppliers. That's a massive financial and strategic reliance on an ally that might, under some future government, use it as leverage. Little wonder then that Europe is eyeing ways to stand more firmly on its own 2 feet.
What you talking about, man? Like you relied on US too much in past century. At a level even like US citizens saying like Europe needs to do their own thing type of way. Doesn't matter what is the meaning behind that, that's a different thing. But the point is US supplies you a lot. In past century, US had dominance over all these things. You can't just suddenly like say like, okay, now we're gonna be self-reliant. It's gonna take time. If you want to do that, of course Europe can do it, but it's gonna take time. Do you have that time though?
From joint European fighter programs in the works to simply buying European-made jets like Sweden's Gripen or France's Rafale instead of the F-35. The kill switch theory, while unproven, thrives in this climate of mistrust. It reflects a shift in European thinking, a growing recognition that in modern warfare, digital and logistical control can be just as decisive as firepower. And so, the Europeans are hedging their bets. From a technical standpoint, the F-35 is one of the most complex military platforms in history. It's not merely an aircraft, it's a flying mainframe. Each jet runs millions of lines of code, receives daily encrypted updates, and relies on operating systems for diagnostics, logistics, and analytical maintenance. The most critical functions go through the mission data files, and control over this digital infrastructure.
The problem with that is, obviously, like people always tell me like, okay, this is not just some plane that is connected to the internet mainframe that somebody can put virus into it. Like I know that. What if an F-35 gets shot down and someone like Russia or China gets a hold to it and hacks into this, like system, because now they have the F-35, so they have that system. They can either reverse engineer it or like screw with the system, right? So all F-35s affected. So there is always a pros and cons. Like if you want to be this kind of a web connected system, all electronics, great. But it also relies on the same issue that internet has, right? Everything being on internet. What's the issue with that? One virus can take everything down. This is similar thing. If somebody captures an F-35 and like somehow, tampers with it and creates a system that fucks with all F-35s because of it, there you go, F-35s might as well be screwed.
Remains exclusively in American hands. Even when exported, the aircraft's mission data files are updated and managed via secure US channels. This infrastructure was designed with a centralized network in mind to streamline interoperability among allies. There's no known code that would allow a one-click shutdown of the engine or flight controls from afar. If such a feature existed and ever came to light, it would trigger outrage and effectively kill the export market for all American weapons. For that reason alone, it's hard to imagine the Pentagon intentionally building in such a backdoor. The risk would far outweigh any theoretical leverage. That said, the absence of a real-time switch does not imply the absence of control. If the aircraft's mission data files were disrupted, intentionally or otherwise, the operational readiness of European air forces would drop. For instance, without updated mission data files, the F-35 wouldn't know what emitters to expect and how to respond to them. Its sensors would have difficulty in identifying enemy aircraft and missile threats, and its stealth flight paths wouldn't be optimized to avoid enemy radar detection. The aircraft's combat effectiveness would degrade in all aspects without timely updates to those files. To be clear, the F-35 would still be able to fly and shoot, but it would be stripped of many of its fifth-generation capabilities.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Like we've seen a lot of exercises where F-22, F-35. F-22 is a big deal because F-35 is great, but when it comes to any type of like air combat, F-22 is better. That's what its job is. It's a twin jet fighter, right? So F-22 got shot down by many fourth generation planes, Rafale and everyone, because the hands were tied, like stealth element was removed. So if these planes don't have stealth element, these planes might as well suck, because like something like Rafale, Gripen, F-15, these planes are better, right? Because making these planes stealthy, a lot of compromises were made. That's why these electronics are really important. That's why stealth is really important. All this data is important. Without it, it's basically screwed.
So, without America's blessing, Europe's F-35s wouldn't be able to operate with real-time intelligence and threat recognition data. And given the aircraft's high price tag, most air forces would rather have the jets sit in hangars than risk losing them in a highly active combat zone. Point in case, an outright kill switch is unnecessary.
Okay, now the comments make sense. Subscription service. America's selling these planes as a proper thing to sell with the proper money, but it relies on a lot of American things to be updated. If you don't update it, this thing doesn't work. So isn't that like a subscription service? Like, did you really sell a plane? Sure, it's a thing, it's a physical thing, like how you have set-top boxes and things, right? Like Apple TV and shit like that. This is a thing, but if like US doesn't update it or like doesn't feed you like replacement parts, what did you pay for? What is the point of this? Like, it's just weird. I never thought of it like there were comments made me think like that's why this is like subscription service.
Pentagon doesn't need one. Any interruption to the aircraft's mission data files would ground the F-35, not instantly, but inevitably. In the span of weeks or months, Europe's air power would collapse. No epic confrontation needed. And this is where Washington's true leverage lies, not in a Hollywood-style kill switch, but more like a slow, boring, logistical kill switch. So, while F-35 operators don't need to worry about a secret self-destruct signal being sent to their aircraft, they do have to accept that owning an F-35 means the US retains a degree of veto power over the jet's operability.
No, I have a gun. I'm not gonna shoot you. I'm gonna pistol whip you until you are weakened. Basically similar thing. There you go. No, we don't have kill switch, but yeah, we have many other things. There you go.
In fact, it says so in the aircraft's contract. A report in Stern magazine says it has obtained a copy of the classified German contract for the F-35s. In it, the Pentagon reserves the right to terminate or suspend services if the national interest of the United States requires it. Admittedly, this would need an exceptional and urgent crisis, but its vague language...
You are selling a product as a commercial product to these countries. Like this feels weird, man, right? I mean, this is why I understand F-22 and all these planes that you don't sell. You shouldn't sell because of this. But if you're properly selling an item to somebody and you just like have a condition like if this compromises US's interest, we're gonna kill this thing off. So what are these countries paying you for? Is this, I think it was, yeah, Ferrari did this same shit, right? Oh, you're gonna pay $1 million for this car, but you can't keep it. Ferrari people will come and take it over. You can call us. You can set us the date where and when to come, which racetrack to come. We'll bring you the car. How the fuck did that guy pay $1 million to own that when he doesn't have? He can't open the garage and look at the car because it's not there. Ferrari people took it back or something. This feels similar to that one.
Language nonetheless leaves too much room for interpretation. It didn't help that around the same time, news broke that Trump had suspended military aid and intelligence to Ukraine, seemingly to push for negotiations with Russia. To Europeans, that signaled a willingness by Washington to use critical support as a bargaining chip, which is precisely their fear with the
I mean, Trump would use anything. Yeah. What is the national interest? Trump's interest. Trump say you can't use it, so your F-35 doesn't work.
F-35. If they can do it to Ukraine, maybe they could do it to the rest of NATO someday, the thinking went. The Pentagon has since issued a statement denying the kill switch rumors, but the damage is done. Seen in this way, kill switch is as real as it gets, not as a button, but as a framework. It's embedded not in the aircraft itself, but in its support infrastructure. For Europe, this raises difficult questions. If maintaining sovereignty means reducing technological reliance, then shifting toward European-made alternatives becomes a strategic necessity. However, doing so would require time, investment, and industrial realignment that may not materialize quickly. For now, the F-35s will keep flying with America's blessing, but the aircraft comes with a quiet caveat. Operational freedom is constrained not by electronics, but by software access. And access, as history shows, can be revoked.
Look, man, here's the thing. This is why it matters. What you say matters. This is why the leader of USA is not a joke. Being a president is not a joke. You need to be very careful how you say things. This is the fact. People will lose trust on you. And by people, your allies basically. Another, more, besides America, all the other developed worlds, your allies, Europeans, basically don't have trust on you because of how Trump is acting and how Trump is making decisions. One meeting with Zelensky and stopping the aid is enough for Europe to think, wait a minute, what if they stop support with F-35? We can't buy F-35. There you go, F-35 deals goes down basically. People don't buy things from USA, even if those things are the best in the world. They don't trust you. That shit is insane. This is a shift, man. Right, well, that was the Can the US turn off Europe's F-35 aircraft by on Caspian Report. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.